Welcome to In Her Voice, a podcast created for women who listen to and live by their deepest wisdom, their inner voice. This was made for you, the woman who feels pulled to more, to lead, to create, to dream, and to be a world changer. My name is Kelly Covert, and I am an inner voice coach. Join me here each week as we explore what it means to reach for your inspired potential, all while honoring your worthiness each and every day. Hello, everyone. This is Kelly, and you are listening to In Her Voice. Thank you so much for joining me today. I took a week off last week because, of the election, and I was just feeling like I needed a lot of space to sort through my feelings and sort through my anxiety and take extra care of myself. And I hope that all of you did the same, because I know that I was not alone in my anxieties last week. So I am back this week, and I have a wonderful guest. Julie Foucht is here with me today, and we are going to be talking about recreating the world, which feels very big when I say it like this, but what we're really getting at is we have been given this time in the world, in the history of the world, and I think all of us can say we've never lived through anything like this before, a global pandemic and all of the unrest in America right now. And we are here for a reason. And Julie and we really wanted to talk about how when we start to tap into our desires and our purpose, we are also recreating our world. And I know I've said that on this podcast many times. When you live out your purpose, you're changing your world, which means you're changing the world, and you're doing what you were put on this earth to do. And I really believe that when we feel empowered to do that, when we know that we are enough right now, then we can live out that purpose. And Julie and I are going to be talking about that. Before we get to the interview, I just want to remind you that the Enoughness Planner, my new planner that I'm writing, is going to be coming out very soon. The tentative release date is December 1, so right around the corner. And I created a wait list for that, so you can be the first to know when it comes out. And I think I'm going to do some extra special things for people who buy during the first week that it's on sale, a little VIP treatment, because you guys are my VIPs for sure. So if you want to go ahead on over to kellycovert.com/enoughness, you can put your name on that wait list. And when you do that, I will actually send you a few of the pages so you can go ahead and get started right away on cultivating your enoughness and creating kinder habits in your life that help you feel good enough every single day. Because when you feel good enough every single day, when you're owning your enoughness, and when you know that you are worthy deeply, then that empowers you to live into what you're meant to do in this world, and that will recreate our world. So let me tell you a little bit about Julie. When Julie Foucht decided she needed to take her coaching business seriously, she hired a high-end coach and learned to market like a man. She doubled, then tripled her income in less than a year, but she felt drained, uninspired, and restless. Urged by spirit, she embraced her essential womanness and birthed a new way, the art of feminine marketing. Today, Julie teaches female coaches, teachers, and healers who are frustrated with traditional marketing how to build six-figure businesses through the art of feminine marketing. Julie's clients report having clearer vision of their divine purpose, greater passion for their work, the skills to be attracting the perfect clients, and are being paid well for their gifts. She is married to the love of her life, has 4 children, 2 stepchildren, 2 furry babies, and 7 spoiled grandchildren. And she is just a treat. And we really dig into this idea of living into your purpose. And she is giving some really practical strategies, things that you can put into place today to start overcoming the fear that might be holding you back. So let's get right to our interview with Julie Foucht. Welcome, Julie Foucht, to In Her Voice. I'm so pleased to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to connect with you again.
Yes, and I've had a couple of interviews like this that I sat down with several people before the pandemic and recorded an interview, and then boom, the world shifted and changed, and it just didn't feel right to put that interview out. Like, I felt like we really needed to have a different kind of conversation. So I'm so glad that you offered to come back and spend some time with me to talk about this. And I think we're really going to dive into COVID itself, the impact that it has had on our world. And your particular area of expertise is the art of feminine marketing. And before we started recording, we were talking about what direction we want to go. And you said the conversation that you're really passionate about having right now is, what do we do now? How do we rebuild? How do we recreate this world that COVID has decimated? And maybe not necessarily in a bad way. I mean, there are awful things that have happened, but maybe this is an opportunity. So why don't you just dive in?
When COVID first started, I think there was this space where everyone, at first it was like, yeah, it's over there, it's not coming here. And then all of a sudden it was in our country and we were shutting down. And there was a shock wave that went through the country. And I remember feeling just these waves and waves of fear. And a lot of what I did during the first few weeks of the shutdown was just mitigate fear for my clients, for myself, for the collective. I was doing some spiritual work around how do we manage the fear. But in that, I began to see that what happened was the world was cracking open. Mama Earth was speaking. There were things going on where the problems became much more surface level. And I don't mean just, the problems of having a worldwide pandemic, but, things like racism really showed up. Things like climate change really showed up. I live here on the coast of California in a place that I never thought I would be affected by forest fires. I've lived in the mountains. I grew up in the mountains. And this year, we were packed in our driveway ready to go because there was a fire that was so close to us that we were in the warning zone. Like, be ready to leave on a moment's notice. And, my daughter, who lives down the street from us, actually did leave because watching a fire come towards their house was freaking out my little granddaughters. So there are a lot of things that have happened this year to have crack open our society, our planet, what's happening. And as women creators, we have a choice. We can give into it, write it out, hope for the best, desire things to come back to, quote, normal. Or we can step into our divine role as goddess and creator, use our witchy magic, and we can recreate the planet in a way that is more soul-fueled, more heartfelt, more connective, more relational, more collaborative, and better for all the beings on the earth. Not just humans, taking over everything, but all beings on the earth.
I, as you were speaking about this, one of the things that I feel like has happened collectively since the beginning of the year, and in the United States since March, is it feels like, like the veil has been lifted, so to speak. Like the rosy lens has been ripped off, and we're really seeing the darkness that has always been there, but it's like there's no hiding it anymore. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I think that's been happening for a few years. And I think that it just all came to a head this year. I think that it's also asking us to look at our own shadows and our own darkness and say, where have I contributed to unhealthiness for both myself and for the world? And it's really got me examining, I'm slogging through the books on white supremacy very slowly, or racism. What are they calling that? Being anti-racist.
Yes.
See, I'm slogging through that very slowly, and it's difficult work. And also really looking at, okay, how do I want to respond to the environment? Like, those are two big issues right now. I was talking with my photographer the other day, and part of my program, I take women on these fabulous retreats, and we end up doing some marketing photography. It's both transformational and healing and used for their marketing. And we do that when we're on retreat. And so I was talking to Lindsay the other day about when we're allowed to do this again, right? When we get a vaccine or whatever it's going to be. How do we do this in a way that's more carbon neutral, which we've never thought about, right? We've hopped on airplanes and we've gone. And I still think there's value in that, and looking at it like, okay, what do I need to do to mitigate the fact that I'm hopping on an airplane to go run a retreat, right? And those kinds of things really were not forefront in my mind before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost feel that because we were forced to essentially shut our lives down, right? Like, we were forced to be at home. We were forced to, only go to the grocery store when we need to. You couldn't just run into TJ Maxx to pick up a quick pair of shoes, or, whatever it is that your normal life was. Like, we literally were forced to stop. But I feel, and I don't know about you, that it has been such a gift. So, we're talking a lot about the shadows, and those have certainly come up for me. Like you, I would say the first 3-4 weeks of our shutdown here in America, I was like feeling so much anxiety. And I'm not normally an anxious person. Like, that's not something that I typically struggle with. And so I was really feeling that. I think it was my own anxiety. I think I was feeling other people's anxiety about everything. But as I've been able to settle my soul, I have seen the shadows, but I've also seen the gifts. And I think that we have to take both of them. We can't just take one or the other. We have to take them both at the same time. What do you think about that?
So there's a famous quote by Rumi that says, "The wound is the place where the light enters us." What happens when we are wounded as children is we make these decisions about ourselves that become negative beliefs that drive us. And then we take that part of ourself that's represented by that belief and we shove it into the shadows. I remember when I was leaving my first marriage and I realized that I had this really silly, corny, ridiculous part of me. And that was so not accepted in that marriage that I had shoved that part of me in the shadows. And we all have these parts. And it can be the part that we're ashamed of, or the part that makes us feel less than. We all have that. But what happens when we shine a light on those parts of ourselves, when we bring them back and we reintegrate them, they actually become part of the powerhouse for us to go live our mission on the planet. Because we're spending less time keeping them in shadow. And so we have that energy to move forward. So it can be like weakness. Like we all have a shadow part that's weak. We all have a shadow part that's dark. We all have a shadow part that feels very small and powerless. And especially, I work with women on their marketing. We want to put out there, I'm powerful, I'm strong, I can do anything, blah, blah, blah. And there's a real gift in saying, and sometimes I'm not. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I need help. Sometimes I'm not up to the task, but I know how to get help to be up to the task. And I think that balancing and being able to bring that part of ourselves in and actually love that part of ourselves that we put into the shadows, that we relegated to the dark corners, being able to love that part of ourselves makes us more attractive to our right clients. Mm-hmm. And it allows us to connect more deeply with Source and to create from that connection to Source.
Mm-hmm. Right, because it's only when we accept all of who we are that we're able to, really step into our full power. Because all of us is like the whole person is needed for that.
Exactly. We were born on the planet with a purpose as a whole person. And then we got all these lessons growing up about the parts of ourselves that are unacceptable to society or to our families or to the religion we were raised in. And we put those parts aside, and we need all those parts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I hear you saying is, first, we integrate ourselves. And once we do that, or even, might I say, as we do that, we can begin to heal the world around us. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing. We can't love others until we love ourselves.
So true.
And we can't love ourselves unless we love all of who we are. The most true thing is love. Everything happens because of love. Now think about this. If we truly loved ourselves and became capable of loving the planet that we all live on, we don't have another place to go, we all live here. If we truly loved the planet, would we heal climate change? Mm-hmm. Would we take care of not using plastics in the way we do? We would heal the planet. If we truly, truly loved ourselves and were therefore capable of loving other human beings, we would take care of racism. It wouldn't happen because we could truly love. But what happens is we don't love a part of ourselves, and then we get caught up in having to prove that we are lovable. Then we get into competition. I'm more lovable than you. Please give me the love. I'm desperate for it. And that competition is what turns into the battles we have.
I've never thought of it like that, but gosh, that makes so much sense to me. Like this competitive need for love and belonging, where really it goes against what love means, because we don't have to compete for something that can be freely given.
Right. Do you have kids, Kelly?
I do. I have 2 boys.
Okay. So I have 4 children, 2 stepchildren, and almost 8 grandchildren. We're going to have another grandchild.
Gosh, Julie, that's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids. So I watch the competitiveness. There's something that happens where they just are constantly competing against each other. And I haven't solved it, guys. I really haven't. As a grown-up, I can come back and I can walk you through the process of loving yourself again. I don't know how we get that from kids, but I see in my two little granddaughters. It's so funny because they're constantly competing for my attention when I'm around. Now, if I have one of them and not the other, it's lovely. But if I have both of them, it's this constant competition. Unless I discipline one of them. And then it's the two of them against me. And I'll be like, she's sitting in the corner because she just pinched you. And now you're turning on me? Like, really? So they do have that deep love, but you see that competition. Now, what happens when people grow up and they're still in that competition for love, but now they're grown-ups and they are in positions of power? Like, that's when society gets all wonky.
Yeah. And one thing that keeps coming up to me too is, and this is something that I have really come to understand in my own life, because my critical voice, the mean girl in my head, can be so loud. And it's something that I've really worked on, and connecting with my inner voice has really taught me that I am worthy and that I am lovable. And like you said, that I can embrace all of the parts of me. But the other thing that has taught me is that I can also embrace all of the parts of other people. And so on the flip side, if I am not willing to accept all of myself, then it's like gives me permission to not accept all of other people either. And so, that's kind of a dark way to think of it, but I think that that's an equally important thing to say. Just as much as we have to learn to love ourselves, to love everyone, we have to accept all of the parts of ourselves, even the parts we don't like, to be able to fully accept all of the people that are around us. Because there's always going to be things that we don't, like particularly are drawn to about other people, but that doesn't mean that they're less worthy of love.
I had a mentor once who taught me that there are no bad parts. There are only parts that are in outdated roles.
That's good. Say that again. That's good.
There are no bad parts. There are only parts in outdated roles. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example of that. Let's say that as a child, you had a parent that came home drunk every night, and you never knew if fists were going to fly or if they were going to pass out on the couch. And so you developed this protective skin, right? And maybe you call that fear. And that fear keeps you hidden. Therefore, you can't go market yourself, right? Because you've got fear. So what you have to do is you have to look at that fear. You have to say, okay, why were you developed fear? What is this all about? What were you trying to do for me? And fear will say, well, if you had spoken up in your brilliance and in your genius, then your dad would have smacked you across the room and you wouldn't have survived. So I had to shut you down. I had to make you be quiet. And so I wrapped you up in fear so that you would be quiet so that you could survive till adulthood. Now, the problem is fear is still doing that, right? Mm-hmm. So what we have to do is we have to have this conversation with fear, and we have to talk about, can it take on a different role in our life? Can it become the, let's call it maybe the manager who chooses the right podcasts for you to appear on, right? Like, fear can take that on. And so when we look at how other people, so that's how we work it within ourselves, right? We look at, well, what's the part doing that I don't like? What's the part doing that's causing me problems? Can I have a really loving, respectful conversation? And maybe we can renegotiate and do things a little differently within myself. Then we look at other people, because, there are people right now in this country that I really disagree with their actions.
Yeah, I'm familiar with those people.
and I'm actually like upset enough that it makes me sick to my stomach. And I've told my husband, you cannot watch the news all night, right? Like, shut it down. And when I take the meta view, when I really back up, I also see the hurt bits of them, the parts of them that just are hidden in the shadows. And so while I can take a stand against what they are saying and doing, I can also have this spiritual empathy and wish them the healing that I've been lucky enough to go through and continue to put myself through. Continue to look at mentors and courses and practices to be in my own healing process. And I can really wish that to them and see them from that, 10,000 foot view as a human soul that is doing these things out of real deep woundedness and pain. And so it's not an either or, right? It's like I can hold both positions. I disagree with you, and I will stand tooth and nail against what you're saying and what you're doing. And I can have, and at moments really hate you. And on the other hand, really have deep empathy and love for you. And that's tough.
It's so hard. And I think that a lot of us are feeling this cognitive dissonance in so many areas. And so going back to this idea of the outdated roles, that includes our own outdated roles. And I think particularly as women, we are stepping into new roles of what it means to be a woman, of what it means to be a creator, of what it means to be valuable to ourselves and the world that we live in. And so as we look at recreating the world, instead of just hoping that we go back to quote unquote normal, as women, what can we do to step into that role more powerfully as creators?
Oh, I love that question. So there's a couple of things that I've really been playing with this year. The first is really to pay attention to desire, right? What you desire, and not desire on a surface level, because that surface level comes from woundedness and all of the negative beliefs that we've been fed our whole lives. But really look under that into what do you really desire. There's a process in one of my groups that we went through, and for 3 weeks everybody listed their desires every day. And sometimes the desire could be like, today I desire a really ripe organic peach, and today I desire a lot of touch, and today I desire 3 new clients, right? So it can be all level of desire, but it's really, what do you desire in your womb, in your pussy, in your, I hope I can say that on your show.
Well, yes, you did. Go for it.
I did. What do you really desire in your heart? What are the deep, deep desires under the surface level? I want to keep up with the Joneses, right? And sometimes it's that simple stuff, and sometimes it's the deeper meaning. I really desire to impact women and help women have more money. Like that, at the heart of me, that desire is there to see women being in that flow of abundance. And when we can hit on those deep desires, those are keys to what our purpose is and what our next right steps for the day is. Mm-hmm. So if I'm really feeling that desire to help more women have money, am I going to spend my day watching Real Housewives? Or am I maybe going to write some emails and connect with some people on social media and offer my services?
Mm-hmm. This has been such a theme in my own life that I've been seeing over and over and over again in the workshops, my habits workshop that I've been teaching. And also, I would say, almost all of my podcast guests lately, some of these interviews, those of you who are listening, you haven't heard yet, but you will start to hear this theme of desire. And I love it when desire becomes the cornerstone of what our action looks like.
Yeah. So action alone is just spinning in circles. But action that is in service of, so I look at it as the masculine is here to serve the feminine. So action in service of our deep desires and our soul's mission is so much more effective.
Well, yeah, it's more effective and it feels different. It feels good, like it fills you up instead of draining you.
And I think that as we're talking about how we want things to change, this whole conversation and my whole viewpoint is that we've got all these formulas for business out there, from how we dress to how we show up to we can't, there's no crying in the boardroom, to how we market. If you're in your own business, what kind of launch formula are you following? And that's all that outwardly driven. Somebody tells you to do something a certain way, and so you follow that, and that's really life draining. And what we want to do is we want to look at what is our desire and how does that move us into aligned and inspired action. And it's a very different way of being in business.
For sure. I want to go back just briefly to that process that you mentioned where you had people list their desires, all of their desires every day for 3 weeks. I'm really curious as to the progression that you saw among the women that were doing this from day 1 to day 21.
Oh, that's a great question. So the first thing I noticed is that, and we were in a private secret Facebook group, so they would write down one thing, like, I desire to be effective today, or I desire a client, right? And by the end of the 3 weeks, the desire lists were long. There were like 15 things on the list, and some of them were like, I desire a trip to Paris today, and stuff that it wasn't, here's what I think I can accomplish, but these are the things that delight me. And just being in the delight, even if the thing doesn't happen, just being in the delight shifts who I'm being in the world. And as a result of this, I've seen the women who participated. One of the women got 2 new clients. Now, she didn't write down, I desire 2 new clients, here are my actions. She was like, I desire a new, whatever kind of car it was. And she had it all like color and everything, and really into that desire. By the way, she did get that car. It actually showed up for sale after she described what she desired.
Of course it did.
And so really being in the desire and then feeling it and really being in the juiciness of it is one of the ways we manifest what we want to bring in. But we got to start in that, what do I really feel? And so going through the process for 3 weeks really allowed the women to hone in on what is it I really desire versus what does my head tell me I should desire? What does society tell me that as a good girl I should be desiring?
Yeah, I have a great process that I take my habits workshop participants through that gets the same thing. It gets to the heart of desire. And the tricky thing about it's my own trick, it's my trick, is I get women thinking about someone that they love and what they desire for that person that they love. And they get deep into their soul thinking about their loved one. And as they do, I have them write a letter to this person, just letting them know all of the things that they want for them and that they desire for them. And the funny thing is then I have them go back and read the letter like they wrote it to themselves. And when they do that, they realize a lot of these things that are so easy for me to desire for someone else are the very things that I desire for myself.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that process.
It's super cool. And the funny thing is I thought, well, should I share it? Because then if people ever take my workshop, they'll know what's coming. But even if you know how the prompt works, it still works because, we don't often allow ourselves to want for ourselves. And so what I hear you saying is, as we tap into that desire, then that creates this flow in our lives, which allows us to step into our power as creators and to step into our purpose in this world and be who we were meant to be. Yeah.
There's so much value to it. Yeah. And it's just the first really simple thing that you can do yourself, just every day in your journal. This is what I desire. Then there's a couple of others, and I know we're getting...
No, don't worry about that. Let's just hear them.
Okay. Here's another one that I really love, is bragging. And in my Facebook group, we have a day where I invite people to brag. And at first, people were really tentative. They were like, what?
Yeah, that can be a triggering word for women.
Right, because we are taught, who do you think you are? Don't brag. Be modest, right? Good girls are modest. Well, you want to kill your marketing? Be modest. Oh, I do this great process for people, but it's kind of just okay. You really want this because it's a really okay. I do this, but I'm not really gonna tell you I'm powerful because I'm seriously. Mm-hmm. I fucking rock. Right. Oh, there I cussed again. Right? You've got to have that in your marketing. And so when we start to brag, we really begin to see the great things about us.
Yeah.
I brag that I took 2 women through amazing Akashic record readings this week, and it just shifted all kinds of things for them.
Oh, I love it. Can I brag? Here, let me think. This is fun, right? I brag that I have such a good podcast episode coming out, something that I'm really, really proud of, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Oh, well bragged.
Thank you. Thank you. This is so funny that we're talking about bragging, because all of those, things you said about being taught about bragging, that was how I was raised. And it was, something that I really, really had to work through. And it's funny because even now, I think, would I go on, say, Instagram stories and just talk about bragging? Probably not. There's still, even as you say, I think, oh, there's still work there. There's still work for me to do in that area. And I think that a great place to start for people who aren't ready to put it out on a podcast or something like we just did, is just the same process. Write it down. Because in doing so, it becomes a reminder of who you are. And we need those reminders.
Fun. And it's fun to brag. I mean, it's so much fun. If you look at little kids, they don't have any of the hang-ups about bragging.
Oh, no. You know what? It's so funny. When my youngest son was 3 or 4, probably about 4, he would say to me all the time, Mommy, look at me. Mommy, look at me. Look at this thing that I can do. Mommy, did you see that? Mommy, look at me. He wanted me to see him, and to see these things that he was doing that he thought were amazing things. And I loved that age for that reason. He just was so proud of himself, and he hadn't learned yet not to be. And we all had that. We all had that when we were 3 or 4 years old. So we have that ability within us to go back to that place if we let ourselves.
Yes. And those are two great practices you can do on your own, or you can find a group to do those practices with. Both of them really, really valuable.
Well, I am going to add the listing my desires practice to my morning ritual. I think that would go nicely with the things that I'm doing already. And some of that, actually, you'll be happy to know, looks like bragging. I do a little bragging on myself in my journal every day. Like I said, because I need reminders of who I am. Julie, I think that these are so wonderful. And to all of the strong, powerful, creative women that are listening, and yes, that's you, all of you, you have these abilities, you have this power to step into your role now as a creator. And I just want to encourage all of you to choose one. Just choose one of these processes that Julie is talking about and commit to doing it for, even if it's just a week, and see how you feel, see how things change. Julie, why don't you let everyone know where they can connect with you and learn more about what you have going on and the things that you have coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are a Facebook person, come join our group, Feminine Marketing Magic.
We'll put a link in the show notes so everyone can find it easily.
And in that group, we do a lot of really fun stuff. We do the bragging weekly. We brag on our clients weekly. So we get to, say, oh, I had a client who did this and it was fabulous. And we also do challenges. This week, I'm doing, by the time this airs, it will be done, but I'm doing a week-long lives every day about how to drop the bro formulas and market like a woman. And so just tons of good stuff there. You can also find me at juliefoucht.com, which is my email address. And we are on Instagram. So lots of pretty inspirational stuff going up on Instagram, thanks to my fabulous team who take my raw stuff and make it really pretty. And again, you can find, I don't know the Instagram handle. It's either Julie Foucht or it's the Art of Feminine Marketing. But if you search Art of Feminine Marketing, you'll find me in all kinds of places.
And we'll link to all of it. So for those of you who are listening, you can just go to your podcast app and the links should all be there, or head on over to kellycovert.com and check out the show notes for this episode, and all of the links will be there. So, Julie, in your life these days, what is your inner voice saying to you?
So my inner voice, let me just tap in for just a second.
Sure.
My inner voice is saying, talk more about how we make magic happen in the world.
Yes. I think I shared this on another interview that I did recently. This so resonates with me because one of my reminders that I've been writing to myself every morning is, I am magic. And
yeah, we talked about that.
That was us, right? I talked about it to you on your podcast. That's right. I'm remembering now. Yes, I am getting like these deep soul hits about embracing our magic.
And the cool thing is, with the unraveling, to bring this back to the beginning of our conversation, with the unraveling that's happening in the world, our access to our own deep magic is become much easier. The veil has become thinner between the spiritual and the physical world. And so the magic, however you define it, whatever your magic is much more easily accessible, and is also asking you to grab it, to use it.
Well, I am so glad that you are here sharing your magic with us. It has been my great pleasure, and I cannot wait to get this out into the world for people to listen and to start embracing their own desire and bragging about themselves and embracing their magic and really becoming world changers while they do it. Julie, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I love this interview, and it's so interesting because I recorded this actually before I began creating my enoughness planner. And then you heard that I mentioned the desire process that we do in the enoughness workshop. And that is also included in the enoughness planner. Don't you just love it when things align like that? And so the few things that she mentioned, these practices, getting connected to your desires, really bragging on yourself, celebrating your wins, these are two things that my planner takes you through step by step. And so it has space for you to process through and understand those desires. And then it has daily pages for you to really practice bragging on yourself, practice gratitude, practice reminding yourself of your worthiness, because these are the things that cultivate our enoughness day after day after day. So again, head on over to kellycovert.com/enoughness to put yourself on the wait list. And when you do that, I'll send you a couple pages. It's the kinder habits portion. So you can go ahead and get started on creating your kinder habits that are going to cultivate your enoughness. Because when you recognize that you are enough, when you own your worthiness, you are living into your purpose. You are not afraid to be who you are born to be. The courage is there. You are reminding yourself every day, this is who I am. And that is a powerful place to be, and I want that for you so much. More than anything, this is what I want for you. Remember this. You are here living in this world at this time for a reason. It is no accident that you are here. You have something so special and so amazing and so unique inside of you that only you can do that. And we need you to do that. That's why you were made. I just want to remind you over and over and over again, you are worthy.